Good enough. All right. All right, welcome to Yelling at Birds. Episode, I don't know. Matt here. I hope you're having a great week so far. Happy Wednesday night. This is filming. I had to get on here, and I just had to get on here and do an episode. So this last, I want to say about 2 weeks ago to last week, super busy weeks, and I feel like I got a lot of learning done. Future planning, things I'd like to do, and figuring out things that I haven't done before, which is awesome. But since then, so this past week, I was just talking to a friend, and this past week I felt like I've had just a ton of mental clutter. Like I don't feel inspired to do an episode. There's really nothing I can think to talk about. I just feel like there's just this big fog going on, which is normal. And it's important for me to realize that that's very normal, and it's normal for everybody. I think that that made me think of people that are, and it's normal for everyone, but specifically if I'm still kind of going through this recovery way of thinking, I think it's important to know that while you're doing that, you'll have peaks and valleys of energy beyond what the quote unquote normal everyday person is going to feel, and that can be very discouraging. I've seen it in people through meetings that I go to, that they're at a period where, man, everything's roses, everything's great, this is how they want to feel every day, and then they hit that reality point where they get up and there's not that natural motivation. They don't know what they want to do. They feel like they're not making any progress, and they get discouraged. And I think that's a big dangerous point in someone's recovery. For me, I know that that's kind of how it's always been a little bit. It's just energy levels. I'm getting better now that I'm, kind of focusing on having certain daily routines. My diet's pretty consistent. My sleep schedule lately has not been that consistent, but it's usually pretty good. But noticing those peaks and valleys when they come, it's important to see those and realize that and understand that the energy is going to come back. So this episode, at capacity. So I hit the point where I was at capacity, and then I felt for a week like I wasn't doing anything. And it is very discouraging. And it made me, like, at the same point in time, a friend of mine posted something on Facebook that I'm going to read here, and it's about mental illness, but I think it makes sense for everybody too. That so sometimes having mental illness is like living paycheck to paycheck with your brain. And another person commented on that. I once tried explaining that when I do big things, it's like taking out a payday loan, and I'm paying interest in energy and pain afterwards, which often made paying for normal daily activities more difficult to impossible. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it makes sense not just for people with mental illness, but for a lot of people. But this especially because someone that is, let's say, going through recovery, you hit those snags, you hit those times when it feels like there's not a lot in your energy bank, not a lot of inspiration, that you start to kind of look for that easy way out again. And that might be that thing, that addiction that you sought before recovery. Another thing it made me think of is finding new addictions and overdoing it. And I've seen that too, where someone is going through kind of that initial, I'm not, whatever it may be, I'm not drinking anymore, I'm not using drugs anymore, I'm not participating in those addictive activities that kind of brought them to the point of wanting recovery. And when they're first clear of that, they have a ton of energy. And when you start to feel that energy creep down a little bit, some people seek that new addiction, and they want to keep their mind occupied so they're not thinking about their recovery, so to speak, or not thinking about those things they were addicted to, and they fill that hole with another addiction. And it might be healthy initially, it might be, the intention might be good, but it's always important to listen to your body, listen to yourself, and understand when you need to take a break, when it's okay to just not do anything. That's super important. And I think that's really important for everybody in general as well. Like it's important for me right now to do this video because it might not be the most important video, it might not be the most poignant, but it's doing this when I didn't feel like doing it, when I feel cluttered, when I don't feel like you have to keep kind of pushing. I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth right now, knowing when to take a break and knowing when to push. I feel like I've taken enough of a break and I need to kind of start chipping away again and working myself back into that kind of creative space, that curious space, the space where I can grow. But listening to your body, and that's where things like I've seen, a lot of friends get more into yoga. I meditate every morning. It's only a simple 5-minute, and I'm not practiced at all. It's just there's a certain song that kind of puts me at ease that I listen to, and I sit there and breathe and try to think about nothing. So that's been a regular occurrence for me. But mindfulness practice, what's really good when you start doing that is whatever it may be. I mean, you could sit literally, you could sit and stare at a tree, a little point on a tree for 5 minutes, and it's crazy how that will clear your mind and do like a world of good for you. I used to just stare out the window, just like I'm working on writing something, I hit a point, and then I just sit there and look at the clouds for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it's like 10 minutes later and my mind's clear and I feel good. But that mindfulness practice, it's a way for you, going through recovery or not, just every day-to-day life, of taking a break, and it gets you in tune with your body, with your energy levels, with your emotions. And when you're in tune, you can listen to yourself and know when you need, I tend to be a little more introverted. So when I'm out, I can kind of feel that introversion happening and that energy drain happening. And if I'm listening, I know when it's time to, all right, I should probably go. I know when it's time to go, or when it's time to, Matt, you're giving up a little too easy. I think it's time to kind of push it a little bit. Stretch those muscles out, get that extroversion muscle, give it a little workout, just like anything else. It's just like going to the gym. Knowing when it's time for you to kind of back off and recharge a little bit. That's super important. It's very important, because I don't know about you, but a lot of what we drain ourselves with on a day-to-day basis probably aren't necessary human things. Yes, they're probably a part of that. They're probably, going to work and getting paid. That's important for, putting food on the table, for keeping a roof over your head, for a lot of things. But they aren't things that we are born with, or things that are just natural part of humanity. So those things can be draining, because obviously anything outside of the realm of being in nature, eating food, getting sleep, those things that are just human biological needs, they're going to have a drain on you. So I think it's important to know and be able to realize the signs in yourself when it's time to kind of take a step back, and when it's time to push yourself, and when you're scared, if that's a fear that you need to explore a little bit more, because maybe it's telling you something, maybe it's telling you that's something that you're curious about, and it scares you because you're super interested and you don't want to, I don't know. That's about all I have today. It wasn't really, I just know I wanted to, it's been almost a week, and I wanted to get on here and say hello, be here, be present for you, and get some of this clutter out of my head. So I basically spent all day cleaning, got a haircut. It's kind of it's a little boxy at the moment, but it'll be all right. And it was nice to, when I'm not inspired to do other creative things and I feel that clutter, let's take care of some of the clutter in my apartment. Why not? That's all I have. I'm excited for some new developments coming up in the future. That excitement also causes fear. It also causes a drain because there's more things to learn. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you giving me your attention and listening. And whether you are listening on one of your podcast applications, watching me on YouTube, or however it may be, I appreciate it. If you have a comment or want to have a question for me or anything like that, Yelling at Birds podcast on Facebook. I have a Patreon page as well. I'll put those links down in the description of the video. Otherwise, have a great rest of the week. That's all I have. Later, birds.